Thank you very much for joining us, Lori Folani. Well, my guests this morning, two of them actually. We've got Dr. Tony Ofoyetan, Director General, International Institute of Professional Security. Thanks as always, Tony, for coming on. It's been quite a while.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Good to have you. And we also have Dr. Kabiru Adamu, who is security, enterprise security, risk management, and intelligence expert. He's also CEO of Beacon Intelligence. Good morning to you, Dr. Adamu.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. Pleasure to be here.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Well, now that I've introduced two security men, I wonder if either of the security men are actually carrying any licensed concealed weapons. With Mr. Tony Ofoyetan, Dr. Tony Ofoyetan here.
No, Kabiru is international. This thing, he should be able to answer. You know, he's wearing a Barbariga.
Dr. Kabiru Adamu, I was just trying to find out any sidearms. You know, it can be done. We hear.
Well, I'm glad that you used the word concealed. If it was concealed, the idea is to not make it public.
That's a technical one. Kabiru is also a lawyer. I don't mind him.
Exactly. Let me stay with you, Dr. Adamu. Of course, we know we're talking about gun control, you know, if you want, or Nigeria gun laws. You know, that's where it boils down to. The Constitution doesn't, in fact, it is silent on it. Tell me what can be done by way of protection, because the Nigerian Constitution apparently does not expressly forbid the acquisition of firearms. But you see, I can only say this because we're around these lawyers too much, and there is the armchair lawyer part of one. So please set us straight.
I'm speaking as a security practitioner, not a lawyer.
Okay.
Which I'm not. As far as I know, the Firearms Act regulates the acquisition of weapons within the country. Of course, the Constitution also mentions certain organizations within the country that can bear arms. And the Constitution is very clear about those organizations. I think there are about 9 of them. And from time to time, there are changes within the Constitution that now allows more organizations to own those weapons. Now, beyond those organizations, the Firearms Act also recognizes the power of the president to issue licenses to certain individuals, then provides criteria for which these individuals must meet. Now, the same act also allows Mr. President to allow the Inspector General of Police that power on behalf of the president, issue those licenses using the same criteria. Again, as far as I know, for almost a decade now, that issuance of licenses has been suspended by the Inspector General of Police. So again, leading us to the situation where currently there is no legal way, and I emphasize the word legal way, to obtain a weapons license in the country, despite the provisions and the existence of this act.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Adamu, because Dr. Ofoyetan, Section 3 of that Firearms Act that he was citing there, a part of it says, no person shall have in his possession or under his control any firearm or ammunition except in accordance with a license granted by the president acting in his discretion. So just grabbing hold of that aspect of it, I wanted to come into our subject matter. The Zamfara governor, as you know, had put out an announcement that farmers, especially citizens in general, should consider arming themselves. And he was saying that they directed the Commissioner of Police to process the due licenses and that kind of a thing. As a security, two aspects to it. I think Dr. Adamu has really taken care of, has touched on them, has touched on the legal part of it. But then the pretty part of it, the very idea that this is becoming too much. People need to be able to defend themselves. Give me your thoughts on that, the notion of Governor Matawale.
Okay, let me start by saying that the issue of bearing of firearms is not absolutely illegal, like the Act has rightly pointed out, once you obtain a license. But there's a caveat. The license that is actually issued is a gaming license, because what is licensed in most cases is either a double barrel or a pump action.
For sport?
Yes, a gaming license.
Yes.
But in most cases, you use it for self-defense. Once you have that license, it auto go for self-defense. On the condition that
it's a rifle, Abi. Yeah. It's a rifle. Because
it's not an assault rifle like the AK-47.
But it's one of those long ones.
Yes.
You can't readily conceal it.
Yes, the one you break, you put your cartridge and close back and all those stuff like that. Either a single barrel or a double barrel. Those are the type of, and the pump action. But contemporary pump action, there are pump action that can even double up as an assault rifle presently. So that means that ordinarily individuals can bear arms once the police, the commissioner of police, act on behalf of the IGP and on behalf of the president to issue such licenses. Now, coming to Governor Matawale.
These are assault rifles that you're seeing here.
Very well. Coming to Governor Matawale, I think I sympathize with him in his catalogue of woes. Now, he laid the foundation for all this. If you remember, I've granted several interviews here. I've been here and I said something that Zamfara is going to see the worst of its own over time. Now, if you look at some of the things I've said about Zamfara coming to play now, it was the same Matawale that said we have good bandits and bad bandits. The same Matawale that went into the forest and was also, fraternizing with the bandits and the like. Now that the center can no longer hold, things are falling apart for him. And he now felt the imperativeness to ask the people to defend themselves. Why? Because even himself is no longer safe. And with due respect too, I think also Mr. President too didn't do well when it came to the issue of the gold. Now gold and crude oil, they have just one singular ownership, federal government. Now for Matawale to refine gold in his own state, bring it to the president, and they have to ask CBN to buy for as much as 5 billion. In other words, that money now domesticated in the state, now making the business of gold a very thriving business in that state. So I told you, I said, look, it's not just Matawale's problem. Kaduna is having similar problem because there are illegal refining of gold in Zamfara, in Kaduna, and these are major issues that the federal government ought to come all out. There is no country in the world, including South Africa, where you have such situation and you don't have serious security challenges. It doesn't exist anywhere in the world. And Zamfara is having its fair share, but it's going to be an introduction to the major crisis along the road. And that's why federal government need to quickly come in. What Matawale had done is to now see the true reality of life, which is now bigger than what he thought. Really? He thought he was going to use some other things to pacify those bandits and the like, made them believe that, okay, things are okay, we are not all out against you. But a criminal-minded person is always a criminal-minded person.
You give them an inch, they take a mile.
They take a mile. It's just like the devil. And that's what you are seeing in Zamfara today.
Dr. Adamu, your thoughts, please, on the notion of Nigerians bearing arms, especially in the way that Governor Matawale is suggesting for in frustration, really, to protect themselves from the bandits there. Your thoughts on the very idea. How good an idea do you think it is?
Thank you, Uncle Yuri. Now, I can approach your question from different, prisms, starting from the moral prisms, the legal prisms, which I've talked on earlier on, and perhaps at the penal code and other codes within the country, which allows me as a citizen to protect myself. In other words, I should not fold my arms and see someone coming to kill me, and then I just keep quiet about it. That's another angle to approach that. From the moral principle, the law of life would allow me to protect myself. But the irony is this: there is a social contract. that social contract gives responsibility to the two sides. It says on the one side, we let go of certain rights and privileges so that government will provide those rights and privileges for everybody. In this instance, the responsibility to provide security as enshrined in Section 14, Section B of our Constitution, is that responsibility squarely lies in the hands of government. Now, what it appears that the Zamfara state government has come to a conclusion that the federal government, upon which this responsibility for the provision of security lies, is no longer being able to. So it's more or less taking the gauntlet, bull by the shoulder and saying, we will provide security for our people, even if the federal government is not able to. So at the center of this discourse, at the center of this issue is a debate on the decentralization of security apparatus within the state. Does the Zamfara state government have the authority to instruct, for instance, the commissioner of police to issue licenses to its citizens? And the answer is, at the moment, no. But does it have a moral obligation to protect its citizens? Yes. So these, unfortunately, are issues that are beyond the remit of our conversation. But again, I want to emphasize that it's a constitutional issue, and I'm hoping it will be taken up, both as we go into the 2023 elections, and then more importantly, that we as a country should now decide which way do we want to go. Do we want to decentralize security? Now, what is my opinion? My opinion on this is we must protect ourselves from these people. My primary advice is go after them. We know where they are. They are hiding inside forest. So whatever we can as a country bring together, let's go after them. Now, if we can't do that, and obviously for some reasons we're not able to do that, the second responsibility is for the state government to perhaps rally around the neighboring states. Sokoto is going through the same thing. Kebbi is going through the same thing. Katsina, Kaduna, and Niger State are going to. So rally around these 6 governors or set up some form of security arrangement that would ensure a networking of not just intelligence capabilities, but a networking of state-level security apparatus. There is none of these states that I've mentioned that does not have a state-level security apparatus, but they are working in silos. They're not working together. And then lastly, introduce monitoring and evaluation in the management of security funds. None of these states has a security fund in the manner that Lagos has. So what monies are collected by governors in terms of their security votes, we don't know. How they dispense of that money, we don't know. But if they create a fund that now is being managed in a very transparent manner, it gives every individual an idea of how that money is being managed. And then wealthy individuals within those states and those regions can now contribute to that. So in the long run, apart from the federal arrangement, which the state has now come to a conclusion and has failed, you will now have a regional arrangement that perhaps would support this federal arrangement. Anything short of this, especially that first, advice I gave, going after the enemy, unfortunately, will just be dilly-dallying around the problem.
Well, thank you, Dr. Adamu. Dr. Ofoyetan, clearly, the governor is frustrated. Too many losses, too many, harassment of farmers, and so it seems that he spoke in desperation. But again, I'm a bit concerned. Maybe the governor is working at something because he's the governor, he's the head of the state. He should know all about gun laws in Nigeria. And in any case, he has an attorney general, there are legal experts. So there should be no shortage of knowledge there. But that he has come out like this really speaks to his frustration at what seems like a breakdown of security entirely. Let us just be plain about it. And in this circumstance, the suggestions that Dr. Adamu had there, I thought we'd been working at those kind of things through the years. It hasn't led to very much. Where exactly are we now? The governor feels that, look, we've done everything that we can. Now, enough of citizens being sitting ducks for these guys who come whenever they will and, just desecrate the whole place. What are your suggestions, Tony?
Well, let me start by saying that the governor of Zamfara is not the first to ask citizens to defend themselves. Remember, Autumn did that earlier. That's the governor of Benue State. And also, you also remember Masari, also at a time, was also crying with respect to that. Now, that tells us that the federal government is not doing well. But I have suggested this earlier, that in addition to what Dr. Adamu said, one of the clever ways through which state governments can actually circumvent this issue of individuals not bearing arms and also achieve its purpose is to bring up a bill at the National Assembly empowering state security agencies like the Amotekun, the Bebiagu, and the one that is himself just established now, the Sokoto Marshal and the like, should be allowed to bear arms. Now, because no matter what you say, if one security is still solely at the beckon and at the sole authority of the federal government, it now depends on the push of whosoever is at the helm of affair. But when you have each state security apparatus, we already have state policing, except for the fact that it has not been formally, nationally legalized. Let me just put it like that.
Or called
yes,
state
because
police.
Every state in Nigeria today has its own, for example, traffic management, has its own individual security architecture. That's to tell you that that is the next way to go. Even those that we were advocating and assuming that cannot afford it, many of them already have their own state security architecture as we speak, and they pay them. So the issue is now, to what extent, like he said, all of them can synergize, but more importantly, no matter how much it is structured, if they don't bear arms, whosoever bears the arms dictates the tone of security in any state and in any community. So if the government does not want a situation where either the state or individual will bear arms, the major and the most important thing is you have to go after them. There is no two-way about it.
Exactly.
There is no other solution to it. Because if we say that, okay, we have the fund, we have all other things, and they are still in the forest, it's as good as when you are nurturing either a lion or a venomous snake right inside your own house.
The other point, and let me bring this to Dr. Adamu. The other point is that the president, in trying to address this matter in the past, has actually asked security personnel, that must be the army, maybe the police, to shoot on sight any cattle herder bearing arms. You see an AK-47. None of that was ever adhered to. None of that was, the authorities never picked up on that. So this is part of the challenge that we have. People don't know how serious, quite frankly, the number one man in the country in terms of all of these matters really is about it. I don't know whether they're not reading, not listening to his instructions, or whether they're busy reading body language. But you'll bear with me that the president has said such people who bear arms and are not allowed to bear arms to be shot on sight. It hasn't happened. Would you say people are misreading it when they think that that was just said, then they can't really go as far as that?
Okay, let me put maybe a little bit of flesh to your question so that the listener will understand better. As far as I know, President Buhari has made addressing insecurity one of the three pivotal focus of his administration, both the first and the second term that he's in. Now, in the case of the Northwest, he has directed or approved the establishment of Operation Hadarin Daji. And that operation is a multi-sectoral operation that comprises both the Army as well as the Air Force. And if I'm right, we're looking at the fourth set of the operations. So we've had Operation Hadarin Daji 1, 2, 3, up to 4, and it's currently ongoing. He has also approved the upgrading of military installations and formations within the Northwest, including the establishment of Air Force components both within Katsina and some other parts of the Northwest. For the Army, he has increased capacity as well as the number of certain some of the formations that exist in that. It will be a little bit difficult to say that President Buhari directive, regarding tackling the banditry and other security challenges in the Northwest has not received either political attention or political will. Rather, I think what has been missing is an evaluation of the objectives of that directive. As an example, shoot at sight any person carrying AK-47 illegally. Now, that's a blanket directive, but who among the several security organizations is meant to carry out that responsibility? So if we take that conversation further, and now going back to the running of a national or security defense policy, when the president issues such a directive, the administrative machinery around the president are supposed to pick up that directive and break it down into actionable items. As an example, write a letter to, there are 27 ministries, departments, and agencies in security. So write a letter to each and every one of them that has responsibility for an aspect of that. So as an example, using the same directive, these weapons are not manufactured in Nigeria. We need to contend with that. An AK-47 is not manufactured in Nigeria. So it is being imported either through our land borders or through our sea borders. So write a letter to customs and immigration as an example. This is the presidential directive, and this is what is expected of you, customs. Write a letter to the intelligence departments, DIA, NIA, SSS, and all the other intelligence units within this other security organization. So before you know it, there is a clear pattern of what the government is trying to achieve. And then beyond that directive, periodic monitoring and evaluation of the implementation of that directive. Now,
yeah, sorry, Dr. Adamu. Why do you think this is not actually done? It seems to stand to reason that when the president pronounces, as you said, the whole administrative infrastructure around him has to move. It doesn't happen. I don't know if the presidency, Mr. President himself, doesn't follow up, as we say in management, and how far my instructions are being carried out and how well. So it was said, you drop it there, and life continues. Why do you think there is a problem? Because I've even heard of that problem in a different context. This is in relation to after the pardon of some people who were jailed, for embezzlement and all of that. They still are with the prison authorities, and prison authorities explain that, look, yeah, I heard it on television, but that's not how we release people. The internal ministry, the interior ministry has to do this and that, very much like what you're saying. Why is it that when the president speaks, the administrative machinery doesn't immediately move into action? Do you have any ideas on that?
So on a light note, when you appoint me in either ministerial or higher level position in government, I'll be able to tell you the answer. For now, I'm an ordinary person, an outsider, with studying this situation and giving my perspective to it. But that's on a light note. Based on a research that was conducted by the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, I can't remember the exact year, but they submitted their findings to, I think it was President Goodluck Jonathan then. And it's on the basis of that today we're pursuing things like the community policing and all that. Now, inside that research, they brought up a very important observation, which led me to go do further research. So the observation they made was that one of the areas in sectors in government that lacks monitoring and evaluation is the security sector. And they pinned it down to our long years of military rule, where they said because the military had exercised power for so long, they had destroyed the administrative mechanisms within the civilian organizations. And now that, for instance, the power has been returned to civilians, unfortunately, that monitoring and evaluation capacity that civilians within the security sector are supposed to do are not doing it. So as an example, and in direct response to your question, the reason why we're not seeing that type of monitoring and evaluation of presidential directives is exactly because of this. There is no M&E within the security sector. If the president issues a directive to the security sector, the civilian component around the president, frankly, are afraid to monitor that directive within the military. The National Assembly has a responsibility for oversight. Ordinarily, they are an arm of government that should conduct that oversight. But again, because of this, our military history, the National Assembly too is frankly not bold enough to, conduct oversight functions in the manner that advanced democracies like the US. You have monitored congressional hearings on defense. You would see how even military generals, when they come to those congressional hearings, they are shivering because they know the power that the legislature has over them. Have you ever seen a congressional hearing, senatorial hearing or House of Rep here in Nigeria where a general is uncomfortable? No. In fact, in most instances, they shout down at our legislators. So that is an area of our democracy that we need to develop. The capacity of our legislative.
Even in America, where it is enshrined in their constitution that the right to bear arms shall not be infringed, that's the way they couch it, shall not be infringed. Don't even go there. Don't say anything that will begin to limit the right of a citizen to walk into a store following some certain tests, buy a gun, and go his merry way. There are still some regulations. For instance, you have to have so many hours of workout at the gun range and all of that. There are gun instructors. So here, I don't know that we have any of that. So even for the moment, just looking at Governor Matawale's idea, are we sure that these simple folk, the farmers that are the object of all of these protective devices, are able to do to handle these things well? That might be one of the things that is concerned. And then the discipline that is required, that it is not every quarrel with your neighbor that you go out and bring the gun that you own legally. The mental balance and all of that is all part of it. So I guess people are concerned. Are you as well?
Well, I have mixed feelings about the feelings of collateral damage if every Dick and Harry gets harm. Yeah? And also the concern of
but in fairness, not every citizen or every Dick and Harry, even in America, qualifies to buy.
That's what, of course. It now behoves on the police that is issuing the license to set the conditions precedent to obtaining the license, even when you purchase one. So the whole thing, whatever Matawale is saying, is still linking it up back to the police. So the police still have the discretion whether to issue or not to issue. So his statement, strictly to say, is not in breach of any law, but is just in reaction to his security challenge in his state. Now, I also know that the General Irabo responded by countering it and all those stuff, but without telling us
by saying that he wasn't sure the Commissioner of Police had the right.
Yes, without telling us what
licenses
they would want to do to actually attend to such situation. Because when you look at a state governor in that desperacy, then what happened to the citizens of that state, the indigents of that state? What do you think their mindset would be? So if you ask me, I think that it is high time the government truly look at the possibility of having, a proper security attention. In actual fact, we need a security emergency in this country now. Whether you like it or not, this country is under siege. You go to all the villages in all the nook and cranny of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You go to the forest, you will see these people in almost all the forests.
All these non-state actors.
Yes,
they've taken over.
Actors. They've taken over.
Let me bring in Reverend Dominic, who has called in. Good morning to you, Reverend Dominic.
Good morning to my brother there, the security experts.
Dr. Ofoyetan and Dr. Adamu.
Dr. Adamu. What I want to suggest, Yori, it seems to me that you, myself, the two security experts there, the way we see Nigeria's security challenge is not the way the people who govern us, in quotes, sees it. Because if they see the danger that is ahead of us, why do we sit down and play this ostrich? Let's have an example. Let's say all the men in the forest in Nigeria are from Niger Republic, and we're fighting a war between Niger Republic and Nigeria. Do you mean Nigeria army cannot defeat it? Is it what you're suggesting? We have bought what to call Tokona aircraft, can I pronounce well? Tokona aircraft. We said this Tokona aircraft can chase people around. We have not seen it in operation. Now the governors are stressed up. The governors are giving up. The governors are telling people to go and carry guns. If we implement that policy, who will get the gun? The armed robbers have the money to buy it. The bandits already have the money to buy it. Politicians already have money to buy it. You know where the gun is now. What anarchy are we calling our nation? And let me say this. When we discuss security, we talk about North, and we select it, we're making a mistake. The bandits in the Southeast are stronger and vicious more than the one in the North. The bandits in the Southeast control the state. Like yes, 2 days ago, nobody came out. And I like today, Wednesday, they also have sit at home. So when a bandit has power to give orders and the whole state obey it, both government house, banks, police obey it, which one is more dangerous? The bandit in the south, in the north, that fight and run away, and the one in the southeast that's in charge of the economy and the control of the east. The problem is not about north or south. We have emergency security. We must fight it that way. And let me tell you this gospel truth. Nigerian Army, Nigerian Navy, Air Force, and all those of them is strong enough to defeat this nonsense if the government in power, this APC I voted, which that makes us chase away good luck. This attitude in Chibok guests that we kidnap our guests, nobody was sure who kidnapped them, makes us to say anything but Jonathan. But you know today, the security is worse to 200 over. I was so sick yesterday, or 3 days ago, when I heard Mr. President was saying in Kigali that he has defeated Boko Haram. The time he was saying it, there was a time when he was governor in his state, and the governor in Zamfara was declaring that we are tired, we cannot fight them again, everybody should go and find my state. When Mr. President is making one order in A, the B is worst. What kind of a nation is this? Do they listen to ourselves? Do we listen to ourselves?
Okay.
Thank you, please.
Thank you for calling in, Reverend Dominic. Dr. Adamu, you earlier you spoke about perhaps there might be a need to decentralize the security as a possible answer to all of this. But there also are some other worrying concerns with Governor Matawale's idea, aren't there? Especially that whole matter about becoming proficient in handling arms. That is, even if we get to that, even if we get there, how simple folk, I don't know that we have gun ranges in this country here. It's the idea really, I don't know, it came from a man who is a public citizen, public official, and who is concerned about the people, but it probably will, I don't know, from where I'm sitting here, it might do more harm than good.
Yeah, and we have to remember that Governor Matawale was previously a member of the House of Rep. In fact, the committee chair of the Committee on, I think, Intelligence and National Security, something like that, in the House. So it is presumed that he understands the working of the security architecture in the country. And as a former member of the House of Rep, it's presumed too that he understands our laws. And then, of course, as a governor, it's also understood that he understands to a large extent the laws of the country. And like you mentioned earlier in your opening remarks, he's got this retinue of 8, and as well as supporting machinery, the Attorney General of the state, and several others are there to support him. Now, in all of this, I'm sure what shocked a lot of us, including the Chief of Defense Staff, is the statement saying that he will direct the Commissioner of Police to issue gun licenses. He doesn't have that power.
Okay. 1 second, please, Dr. Adamu. Marzio Korafo has called in from Arochukwu. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, I guess. Sir, you let us look at this issue, of carry guns. Constitutionally, self-defense is approved. You have to defend yourself. Illegally, it is not good to carry arms if you don't have a license. But all Nigerians today, if you say Nigeria go and buy gun, how much is gun? If you look at Russian made is around 400 and something. If you look at China is 100 and something. Now, people have not seen money to go and buy food, not to talk of going to buy gun. Only the bushers are this issue of talking, go and carry arms, go and carry arms, go and carry. If you talk about go and carry bow and arrow, fine. Before we were discussing this issue when this in our board, this issue of arms. People were talking that if you watch on some of these films we see, you see the bow and arrow, those who you brand of bow and arrow. It's very, very simple. That one, you can go and get that one, but do we have such things? This is bow and arrow, but the issue of gun, There is nothing wrong in you to defend yourself, Sadori. Now let us look at it. Look at Catholic Church today. That's how I'm calling on the bishops, all the bishops of Catholic Church, whether archbishop or bishop, they should go back to the churches and help the youth take charge of the school. Because the churches, it is not healthy for a priest to be just kidnapped and killed. It is not healthy even anybody. Look at what is happening in the Catholic Church. A priest has prepared going to say a sacrifice of the animal and he was killed. For what reason? So if the Catholic Church, they should know what protect everybody. Look, let us face the reality of life. Because someone cannot go to the farm. People are sleeping in their house. Somebody will go and arrange and come and kidnap you. In the process, if you don't talk to another person, you want to harass them, they shoot you. If you have money, go and buy your own gun and defend yourself. The governor is 100% correct. Let us know whether National Assembly, are they telling us National Assembly but they don't have their own gun? Is it because the commoners? Because police continue parading this illegal as well. Those people that produce arms locally, let them go and start their business. Nigerian government can even patronize them, at least give them license. Let them put with all this form gun for Nigeria to see that. What is happening? We have 4,000 group of security in Nigeria. Police authority, they took them for training early this year. So what is wrong for people to go and hire such gun and take care and defend themselves? Because it is not healthy for you to go to your house and see that one terrorist. Now, as you are talking now, the UK government and this the Gaelic country, what have they done?
All right, then. Thank you very much, Mazi Okoroafo. Tony, this gun idea, it was brought about because this gun possession was brought about because of the urgency of the situation. Perhaps it's not really the answer. And if you say that, so what is? Dr. Adamu has suggested some things, but none of those things are going to work like tomorrow. We need it for tomorrow. We don't have time. These people can come as we are speaking here. You know, it really looks like we're between the devil and the deep blue sea on this whole matter.
Uncle Yori, you say no matter the grammar we blow, like the last speaker spoke, people will find ways to defend themselves, except there is the assurance from the government that the government is capable of defending them. As it is now, there are avalanche of cases. Your war massacre is there. The Archbishop, Catholic Archbishop, the recent one, abduction and all those stuff like that. We don't need to belabor ourselves on several incidents almost every day in this country today. Benue State is not sleeping. Almost all the states in the north are not sleeping. Southeast, they are not sleeping. Ogun State is already a deposit, as in a big deposit of unknown gunmen in the waiting. So when you are talking about people defending themselves, it is now that the government have to take a decisive decision. Mm-hmm. Because people definitely will defend themselves. Mm-hmm. Whether they are licensed or they are not licensed is not the issue.
It's an instinct.
Now, yes, if the government is not going to be, creating room for such anarchy, then the government, like we said, they have to pursue them. Okay. Now, as it is now, the government is sleeping.
Okay. Mr. George in Ikeja, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to your guests. Uncle Yori, I am not in support of what the Zamfara governor is telling people to do. Let us face reality. Uncle Yori, I saw the pictures you showed of the bandits. Check the type of guns they are holding, the arms they are holding, and the type of arm that Tony was describing that civilians are entitled to hold. If those two arms face each other, which one do you think will win? If you put 1,000 people with those double-barrel arms in one place, two of those bandits with the type of arms they are carrying will come and finish all those 1,000 people. Why putting
with automatic fire assault rifles?
So it doesn't solve the problem. Where the problem lies, let us take the blame where it belongs. The Chief of Defense Staff was very quick to condemn the pronouncement of the governor they are not quick to respond when the bandits are killing people. The commander-in-chief will give a command, and it will not be obeyed. But when somebody says, I want to defend myself, the same people that are supposed to carry out the instruction will come back and say, no, you cannot do it. So are we going to wait and just be killing ourselves? I think the solution lies in what the regional security outfits are already doing. Let there be laws that enables those regional outfits like Buharis, Amoseko, and the rest carry arms that are better than the ones that they are carrying now. Those in the Southwest have already proven that they can face terrorists or armed bandits. So there needs to be laws in place that will enable them their more sophisticated arms. At least they are not just complete. They are paramilitary people.
Exactly.
Those ones can be trained on how to handle those more sophisticated arms. We will get better results in that form than asking individuals to carry, even if individuals carry the arms. When these boys come, they cannot face them. And you will see people using the guns when they are hungry. They don't have, they believe it is somebody who did not allow them to have money to eat. They go to that person and go and kill him. It will bring negative results.
Thank you very much, Mr. George, for calling in. Dr. Adamu, do you agree along that line of reasoning? And in any case, even if, just for the sake of argument, if Governor Matawale were to have his way, I guess we would be the first country in Africa that would allow such.
Not exactly. If I'm right, South Africa had laws that allowed
the citizenry to bear arms. Okay. Yeah. Now I remember.
The truth of it is, even the most advanced democracies, such as the US, that have allowed that, we've seen the consequences. One of the biggest threats they're dealing with today is active gun shooter situation, and it's become such a pervasive problem. At one point, Chicago was the crime capital of the world, and gun weaponry and crime and whatnot were ruling the day. So in other words, massive acquisition of weapons is not in any way a solution to solving security challenges in any country. Using the US as an example, has probably the most liberal means for arms acquisition in any democracy of the world. But then let's go to Europe. In liberal democracies that are to an extent social, like the Nordic countries, they have the least crime situations in the world. Yet their citizens don't bear weapons. So we may shy away from this. We may run around it and try to cover it up. At the root of this is good governance.
Okay, one second, please. One second, please, Doctor. George has called in from Iyanopaja. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, host. Please, you see, Nigeria problem, we have a very big problem, security-wise. And it's no other reason but because of the kind of lawmakers and governors that we have. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we have a country where lawmakers are criminals. I'm sorry to use this language. And our governors,
well, because I wasn't going to agree with you.
Yeah.
It was unfortunate you said that.
Both in the military and in other civil sectors, we have a situation until we remove this issue of oversight functions from the hands of our lawmakers. You see head of government parastatals budgeting 1,000 naira for the whole country. For instance, the Nigerian army. And you see people who are not up to 10 human beings in the name of chairman, in the name of Senate committee on the army, asking the chief of naval staff to add an additional amount for them. And these are people that, on approval of budget, these people will squeeze out whatever that is added for them first. Then 40% of the contract for the same job for the remaining amount, they will be the one to execute it without even completing 10% of reason why these budgets were being, contracts were being approved to them. So until we squeeze these lawmakers, we should stop oversight function, number one. And our governors too, they should make sure whatever fund that is meant for local government gets to the local government. Until we do all this, my brother, Nigerian Air Forces or whatever security forces will have nothing to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. That's the second George on our program today. First being George Nikeja, and this being George in Iyanopaja. Well, when you look at it, Tony, whereas one might understand Matawale, his desperation and all of that, there is a big question mark hanging over the whole idea. But then what happens? Because the situation Matawale, discerned and said, look, I've tried everything. This is the last thing to try. He's still in the same, that is Zamfara State, is still in the same situation. And this is the tragedy of it all. The governor, who will be the number one advisor to the president, perhaps, on the state of security in that place, is really throwing his hands up in the air and saying that it is an impossible task.
It's not an impossible task. Like Dr. Kabiru said, it all boils down to good governance. The truth is, in as much as we agree that there are advantages in bearing arms, I advocated, and I will continue to advocate for government institutions to bear arms, private security companies, state state security agencies, and the like. But for individuals,
and they have a lot of that in South Africa.
Yes, exactly. For individual, because I will feel safer if I know you don't have a gun in your pocket and I don't have a gun, and we are discussing, because we may say things that will offend ourselves along the line. So, but if you have companies, private security companies allowed to bear arms,
maybe,
then yes, you have the Amotekuns, and you have if last man too and all those stuff. Why? Because they are under state government control. They can be trained, they can be retrained,
and they can
government
be
have the facility, they can be monitored and the like. That would complement.
Sorry to interject, Tony. I wanted to give a few seconds as we close, because we've completely run out of time, to Dr. Adamu. Final last words, so to speak, on this stage of the conversation now as the way forward, because as you know, I don't think the Commissioner of Police in Zamfara has invited anybody for licenses yet.
Well, he doesn't have the power to issue licenses. Only the Inspector General of Police has the power. And that power, too, is gotten from the president. So, he can't even do that.
So we're going to have to leave it there. I really beg your pardon, Dr. Adamu, Dr. Kabiru Adamu. Thank you very much for being with us. I beg your pardon for having to interject. We've run out of time completely. And I'll apologize to Tony the same old way, whereas I'm thanking both of you gentlemen, Dr. Tony Ofoyetan and Dr. Kabiru Adamu. Thank you very much for coming on our program today. And indeed, that's our program. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.